Leo, what do you do in Hong Kong? What's your job?
Well, as head of the translation department of Lingnan University, I have a lot of administrative duties. But in addition to that, I teach 3 courses every year. Most of the time it's translation theory, translation project supervision, and then a course on literature and translation. I teach students some literary texts and discuss problems in translating them. So these are the 3 courses that I regularly teach.
Lingnan has a big translation program? Or?
Yes, it's one of only 2 translation departments in Hong Kong, and it has the, well, in terms of student numbers, it's the biggest.
How many students would you have?
We have like over 200 every year.
Undergrad, postgraduate?
Yes, yes, but mostly undergraduates.
Okay. There's a lot of translation studies activity in Hong Kong. Is it just in those 2 departments, or are there other universities involved as well?
Well, the other universities have languages departments, linguistics departments that offer translation programs. So you can do a BA in translation at 6 universities.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
But there's only 2 translation departments.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So there's a lot of translator training happening outside of translation departments.
Right. But in these other departments, you may have a predominance of linguists, you see, or people who are interested in machine translation. For the 2 translation departments, the attempt is to offer as wide a range as possible. And from our perspective, we use the translation studies approach in organizing our program, in teaching our students. So that is
what do you
distinctive.
mean by the translation studies approach?
Well, you know, the James Holmes approach. You remember the article he wrote sometime in the 70s, in which he discusses the various branches of translation, applied and then theoretical, and then, you know, the different areas in which there should be opportunities for students to gain adequate knowledge, you know, like terminology, like translation criticism. So basically we follow the paradigm that Holmes kind of suggested in those days.
Your own work is more on literary translation.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes.
Your background is in literary studies?
Yes. I did my first degree in English and in Hong Kong, and then I went to the States to do degrees in Asian studies and Chinese studies. I got my PhD in sinology.
In sinology. So how did you get into translation studies then?
You see, in those days, universities in Hong Kong did not offer, you know, BA programs in translation or master's programs in translation. So actually, most more senior colleagues, you see, teaching translation these days have a language degree, maybe in English, maybe in Chinese. It was in the 90s that they began to offer courses in translation, you know, and students graduated with degrees in translation. So in our days, a knowledge of a foreign language, well, English in most cases, will be adequate, you know. That's far from ideal, but yeah, that's the way things were. Yeah.
So you did your first degree in Hong Kong. What age would you have gone to the United States at?
Well, when I was 29. Yeah.
To do your PhD then?
To do my PhD.
Okay.
I got my first degree in, when I was 21. Okay. And then I worked for a few years in the government. I taught English in a government school, and then I was inspector of schools, specializing in English. Before I went to the States for further
So the
studies.
interest in translation came when you came back to Hong Kong after the PhD?
I also did an advanced diploma when I was 22, 23, after I got my first degree. In those days, you did not have a degree in translation, as I said, so you could do a diploma.
Okay.
And I did a diploma, yeah.
So did you work as a translator with that?
Well, for a very short period, I worked as a translator and editor for the government.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
and then of course I did a lot of interpreting, for churches, for religious organizations.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
so-
you have a background, a practical
Interpreting
experience background.
more in interpreting than in translation.
I see your name associated a lot with recent publications or collective publications. More literary or?
Well, okay, I edited an anthology called One Into Many, the dissemination of Chinese literatures through translation overseas. So that was the anthology on translation that I did, well, some years ago. But more recently, I just published a monograph on readers, reading and reception of translated fiction in Chinese. It just came out last year.
So this is translated into Chinese?
This is a study of, in English, of how Chinese readers approach modern British fiction.
Okay.
It's published by St. Jerome.
Good.
Yeah. And then before that, I published through the University of Hawaii Press, editions through Doppy. Two other monographs. One on translation and one on Chinese tales, Chinese classical tales.
We see a lot of research, a lot of translator training in Hong Kong. How does that relate to what's happening in mainland, we call it mainland China, the rest of China?
Okay.
Are people moving from Hong Kong to teach in the translator training programs in the...
It's actually the other way around. We do have a lot of students coming from mainland China to the various programs, doing undergraduate work as well as postgraduate work, and mainland students getting PhDs in translation from the various universities in Hong Kong.
They
seem to
back?
think that it's better. The
Yes.
translation training is better in Hong Kong.
They're certainly more established.
And there's more access to material in English.
Okay.
So if you want to do research, Hong Kong is a nice place.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm interested, I'm seeing mainland China opening 10 new translator training programs a year, rapid rate.
Yes.
I'm interested in who's teaching there and who's giving the ideas that underlie those programs. That's why I'm asking if there's a movement from Hong Kong.
I wouldn't say there's a movement of Hong Kong scholars to the mainland. Rather, it's mainland scholars who got their PhDs in Hong Kong going back home.
Right, okay.
And bringing in those
so
ideas.
the ideas are coming through.
Yes. And of course, all the books that you publish in the West, your publications and other publications by translation studies scholars are made available in the People's Republic.
Yes.
There's a press that reprints, works that you scholars have written and sold. They sell these books at cheaper prices.
Yes.
On the mainland. So things are changing, and because of the availability of these research materials and then the inflow of ideas from Hong Kong.
What kind of research do you think is needed now?
I think there's too much textual study. Comparison of source texts with target texts, identifying differences and explaining differences. There's too much of that. And then there's also too much impressionistic explanation of translation as an activity. I'm interested myself, right, in research on the new role that translation can play in a world where English has become the global language. Wow. Maybe I can talk a little bit about my present research interests. I'm interested in the way translation can serve as a force for democratization. I mean, for people who have grown up in Hong Kong, we've had a life learning, we've had a hard life learning English. But I noticed that we can never be excellent in English. There's always a gap that we can never fill. So in my present work, I'm comparing translation with foreign language learning. I think there are certain people who can learn foreign languages very well. But for the majority of people, they need translation to gain access to knowledge outside their own worlds. So I'm interested in this issue, the role that translation can play in place of foreign language learning.
Or in conjunction with.
I'm not saying that foreign languages should not be learned, but I mean, it's so difficult. I mean, acquiring a foreign language and using it well, it's so difficult. We have to rely on translators. So a foreign language is good as an instrument, but if we all have to learn to use and speak English very well, it would be a waste of resources, a waste of time for many people who never have this ability to learn a foreign language. So I'm aware of the importance that translation can play, not just in Hong Kong, in China, but in the East Asian context. I also can use Japanese, and I want to explore the possibilities for doing something like the European Union does in our region.
Professor Chan, thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much.
Yeah.